I'm Alberto.
I'm Olivia.
I'm Chris.
And this is our presentation on who we chose for the heart transplant. Around 5,000 people get heart transplants, but around 50,000 people need to get heart transplants. And what this says is that you have to be accurate when choosing who gets the heart transplant. And so, what qualifies someone to get a heart transplant? Our first reasoning is historically why they should get chosen to get the heart transplant. Our second reason is their health, physically and mentally. And then our third reason is if they have the money to pay for a heart transplant.
Our candidate was candidate D. He's a male, age 45, father of 3 girls, is in relatively good health. He lives in an upper middle class home, employed at a major advertising company, has insurance, and has never been in trouble with the law.
So along the way, there has been some historical events leading to the eventual development of the transplant and deciding which patient should be the one who receives a transplant. So we have these events: the first corneal transplant, which was with somebody who had a problem with their eye, and then this was the first kidney transplant, which I believe the participant didn't survive that long after the surgery, but it was still an important role in determining the overall transplant history. And then this was the first heart transplant, which is very important. Even though the actual patient only lasted 18 days, it was still important because of the amount of research they were able to do regarding his condition. And then finally, the National Organ Transplant Act, it helped basically line out how a transplant should be decided among individuals.
Okay, so here's where I came into our reasoning. So, according to a Washington Post article about a United Networks for Organ Sharing study, is that they analyzed the wait times for patients from 2000 to 2013, and what they found was that those patients who were wealthier and more likely to be insured had a higher transplant rate and a lower death rate while waiting. So what this shows is at the end of the day, hospitals are also businesses, and they need to know what's best for the hospital themselves and for their patients. So just like how history has done it, we're incorporating that into our reasoning. Our second reasoning was his health. So the effects of smoking. So according to Dr. Q et al. At the National Institute of Health, numerous studies have shown that cigarette smoking increases the risks of transplantation-related complications and recipient death in transplanted patients. So patient D, he's relatively healthy. He doesn't smoke or drink whatsoever, so he has a healthy body, healthy immune system, and he's likely to survive after the surgery a lot longer compared to namely patient C, who smokes a lot. And then there's the effects of age. So according to Dr. Cooper et al. At the National Institute of Health, the 5-year mortality rate for patients aged 18 to 59 was 26.9%, and that only increases with age. So what this shows is that our patient D, he isn't relatively too old, and compared to a bunch of other older patients, he's much likely to survive after this and maybe even continue working.
So that's a no. So getting a heart transplant can go beyond the physical effects of your body, and it also could affect you mentally, because it can have effects on your relationships with people and your mental health after getting a heart transplant. Patient D would be good to get a heart transplant mentally because he has a good bond with his family, and that's a good sign when it comes to your mental health. That means they'll be there to support him and just do well with him after the surgery.
So to make our decision, we had to look at if he has insurance and the right legalities. So, patient D has insurance and is more than capable of paying for all the expenses. Shown in this chart from the National Institute of Health, you can see that there are other expenses that the patient needs to pay for, like medicine, radiology, and other things like that. According to the Journal of Heart and Lung Transplantation, there are some risk factors after the surgery that may require the patient to be re-hospitalized. So the patient needs to be able to pay for those expenses as well. It's not just the surgery. And patient D is more than capable of paying for those things because of his very good job at the advertising company and of his insurance.
So unfortunately, there are some legal issues that come with choosing patient D over, say, our group of 4 other patients that could potentially survive the treatment as well. So according to Florida medical law, any patient, regardless of their attributes, personal attributes, their race, their lifestyle choices, and their history, they should all receive impartial access to any consideration for treatment. That does bring up some problems, however. For example, patient A has history being an alcoholic, and then patient C has history of smoking, which both are, even if we consider those and factor those factors out, it could be considered discriminatory based on your ethical standpoint. And along with that, the age of a patient may limit the treatment options available to them. So, in order to defend our choice, patient D he's a healthy patient overall, and he is not too old to receive the treatment. And then along with this, he has a family, a loving family that would be very devastated if he were to leave him, and is also financially capable of receiving the treatment. Which means that his business provides insurance for him, and he'll be able to return straight back into the workforce after receiving the operation. And along with this, even though all patients should receive equal consideration for treatment according to Florida law, it's important that we choose the best candidate overall in order to secure both economically, financially, and all other terms that we have a good candidate for the surgery, which is patient D. Thank you.